I never thought I'd find myself feeling this way at 26, like I'm trapped, running a race I'm never going to win. Every month, I watch my paycheck disappear faster than I can catch it, swallowed whole by bills, rent, groceries, and the creeping costs that always seem to spike just when I think I'm getting ahead. The numbers don't add up anymore, and I'm left scrambling to cover the essentials, let alone anything that feels like breathing room. It's exhausting. I remember when I first moved out on my own, fresh out of college, full of hope. I had a decent job that paid a little more than minimum wage, but it felt like enough. I was young, ambitious, and naive enough to believe that hard work would pay off, that eventually I'd climb out of the financial tightrope walk and land somewhere solid. But what I didn't realize then was how fast everything else was moving: the rent hikes, the price of groceries, utilities, transportation. It was like trying to fill a bucket with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much I poured in, the water just leaked away. Now, my daily decisions revolve around cost-saving tactics I never thought I'd have to learn so thoroughly. Should I pay the electric bill in full this month or only the minimum and risk shutting off? Can I skip the groceries this week and survive on ramen and whatever I can scrounge? Do I say yes to my friends' invitations knowing it means eating out or taking a ride, or do I stay home alone because every dollar counts? There's a constant calculus running through my mind, a never-ending cost-benefit analysis that leaves no space for spontaneity or joy. Even something as simple as cooking feels like a strategic challenge. I buy ingredients that will stretch across multiple meals, often sacrificing variety or nutrition because cheaper is more important. I've become an expert at couponing, discount hunting, and scavenging sales, but even then, it's not enough to feel secure. And when unexpected expenses pop up, car repairs, medical bills, or even a birthday gift for a family member, I feel that familiar spike of anxiety that tightens my chest and makes my hands clammy. It's like walking on a wire without a net, and every gust of wind could knock me off balance. Emotionally, the pressure is relentless. I don't often talk about it because I don't want to burden my friends or family. I guess part of me feels ashamed, like I should have it together by now. But inside, there's this gnawing feeling of failure, like I'm letting myself down, even though I'm working hard every single day. Some nights, I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is what the rest of my life is going to be, constantly struggling, constantly stressed, never really free. The loneliness creeps in too. When I can't afford to go out or do anything social, I start to isolate myself. It's not just about the money, it's the emotional toll of feeling like I'm on the outside looking in. People around me seem to be moving forward, getting promotions, buying cars, planning trips. And I'm stuck in the same place, treading water, feeling invisible. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just invisible to myself. But somehow, I keep going. I cope the best I can, by finding small moments of relief in books, music, or long walks where I can think without the noise of the world bearing down on me. I've started journaling, trying to be honest with myself about what I'm feeling instead of bottling it all up. It's helped a little, like admitting the weight out loud makes it a bit lighter. My dreams feel like distant stars now. I wanted to travel, see the world, maybe start my own business someday. I had plans for a future filled with possibility and freedom. But those dreams have been postponed, indefinitely, it seems, because survival has become the priority. I tell myself that someday, things will get better. Maybe when I get a raise, or find a second job, or move somewhere cheaper. But the future feels so uncertain, like a fragile promise that could break any day. The hardest part is feeling like I'm caught in a system designed to keep me here, working more, earning just enough to pay the ever-rising costs, with little hope of breaking free. It's a cycle that drains my energy and spirit, but I hold on to the hope that this isn't all there is. I want to believe that if I keep fighting, keep pushing, I'll find a way out. Until then, I'll keep making the tough choices, living the small victories, and dreaming of a day when I can finally breathe easy. This story isn't unique, I know. There are so many people like me, struggling quietly, caught in this relentless economic tide. But sharing it here, even in this small way, feels like a step toward breaking the silence. Maybe someone else reading this feels less alone too. Because honestly, Sometimes just knowing that someone else gets it, that someone else understands the feeling of being trapped, is a tiny, but vital, kind of hope. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. Sometimes it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how hard I try, I'm stuck in the same spot, or worse, sliding backwards. Every day, the numbers don't add up. Rent goes up, the cost of groceries inches higher, and utilities climb like an invisible mountain I can't quite see the peak of. Meanwhile, my paycheck barely moves. It's like living in a world designed to keep me tethered, chained to a cycle that's impossible to break free from. I'm 26 now, and for the past few years, financial pressure has been a shadow that follows me everywhere. It's exhausting in a way that isn't just physical but seeps into every corner of your mind and heart. I remember when I first got my job after college, there was this brief moment of hope. I thought, okay, here's my start. I can build from here. But the reality quickly hit me like a wave. That entry-level salary? It covered my rent and basic bills, maybe a little food, but nothing beyond that. Any unexpected expense, car repairs, medical bills, or even a broken phone screen, meant digging into what little I had saved or worse, going into debt. Every morning I wake up, the first thought isn't about what I want to do or who I want to be. It's about how I'm going to stretch the next few dollars until the next paycheck, how I'll make my limited resources last just a little longer. Even something as simple as deciding what to eat becomes a strategic calculation. Do I splurge on a small treat because I need a break from the monotony, or do I stick to rice and beans for the week? These decisions, small to some, feel enormous when you're juggling the weight of financial uncertainty. The economic environment feels like a beast that never sleeps. Inflation chases me. Rent hikes are relentless. Job stability is a constant worry, and benefits are minimal or non-existent. It's not just about making ends meet anymore, it's about survival. And with survival comes this gnawing anxiety, a stress that tightens your chest and steals your sleep. I try to ignore it during the day, throwing myself into work or distractions, but at night, when everything is quiet, it crashes down like a tidal wave. I lie awake wondering how long I can keep this up, what happens if I get sick, or if I lose my job. There's no safety net here. It's incredibly lonely. Sometimes I feel like no one really understands the pressure I'm under because, on the surface, I seem fine. I don't talk about money struggles with friends because I don't want to be seen as weak or irresponsible. There's this stigma around not having it all together financially, and that makes opening up almost impossible. But the truth is, I feel trapped. It's like being stuck in quicksand, you struggle, and the more you fight, the deeper you sink. I've had to put so many dreams on hold. The idea of moving out of my cramped apartment to a place with a little more space or even better, a small patch of yard, seems like a fantasy. Traveling, something I once thought was a given for young people, feels laughably out of reach. Even the idea of starting to save for retirement feels overwhelming and almost pointless when I can barely cover today's expenses. What hurts the most is knowing that I'm not alone. I hear stories from other people my age, and it's like we're all trying to stay afloat in this sea of rising costs and stagnant wages. The system feels rigged, designed in a way that benefits those who already have, while the rest of us scramble to keep pace. I wonder how it got this way, why it feels like the rules keep changing against me, making it impossible to get ahead no matter how hard I work. Still, there are moments when I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself of the reasons I push through each day, the people I love, the small joys that keep me sane, and the stubborn belief that things can get better. I daydream about the day I'm not just surviving but thriving. Maybe I'll find a career that pays more fairly or start a side hustle that turns into something bigger. Maybe I'll find a way to build some stability, however small, so I can breathe easier and stop making decisions based on fear. Coping is its own kind of battle. I've learned to celebrate tiny victories, like getting through the month without overdrawing my bank account or finding a way to fix something myself instead of paying someone else. I lean on routines and small rituals that ground me, like cooking a simple meal or taking walks to clear my head. And when the weight feels too much, I try to remind myself that this is a season, not a sentence. But I won't lie, there are days when despair creeps in, when the future looks like an endless stretch of struggle with no light in sight. This story isn't just about me, it's about so many young adults caught in the same grind. We're told to hustle harder, be more creative, and manage our money better, but what if the system itself is broken? What if the real change needed isn't in how we survive but in how society values our work, supports us, and shares resources? I'm still trying to figure it out. Some days I feel defeated, others, quietly determined. I hold on to the hope that one day the treadmill will slow down, or better yet, that I'll find a way off it altogether. Until then, I keep moving forward, even when the path is uncertain, because giving up feels like surrendering a part of myself I'm not ready to lose. That's the reality of living under constant financial pressure. Sometimes it's about survival, sometimes about hope, but always about the courage to keep going. I never thought I'd be this tired of just trying to keep my head above water. It's like every morning I wake up with this weight pressing down on my chest, and by the time night falls, it's only gotten heavier. I'm 27, working 2 jobs, but the numbers never add up the way I want them to. The rent's gone up twice since I moved into my tiny apartment last year, and utilities keep climbing too. Every time I turn around, it feels like something new has to be paid for, something essential, something I can't skip. I remember when I first got my grown-up job, entry-level, barely above minimum wage. I was so proud, so hopeful. I told myself this was just the start, that if I worked hard enough, saved a little, I'd be able to build a life that didn't feel like a constant scramble. But it hasn't worked out like that. Instead, I'm stuck in this loop where expenses grow faster than my paycheck, no matter how many hours I put in. Some days, I calculate my budget obsessively, like if I stare at the numbers long enough, maybe they'll change. Groceries, rent, phone bill, gas, medications, student loans, I tally it all up and there's never enough left over. If I want to eat something other than rice and canned beans, it feels like a luxury. Going out with friends? Forget it. Even the idea of planning a weekend trip or something to look forward to feels out of reach. I'm constantly postponing dreams that once seemed so close, traveling, moving to a better neighborhood, even just buying a decent winter coat. What makes it worse is how isolating it all feels. I don't talk about money much, because honestly, I'm ashamed. It feels like I've failed somehow, even though I know it's not personal failure, but a system that seems designed to keep people like me just barely managing. But every time I hear about inflation or the rising cost of living on the news, I feel that gnawing anxiety creep in. How am I supposed to get ahead when everything keeps getting more expensive? I'm trapped in a cycle where my income is fixed, but my expenses grow unchecked, and that gap keeps widening. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There are nights when I lie awake thinking about how to stretch the little money I have, worrying about what will break next, my car, my phone, my health. I've learned to put off doctor visits, hoping nothing serious will happen. Stress eats at me, and some days I feel hopeless. The future feels uncertain, and hope feels like a fragile thing I have to protect carefully so it doesn't shatter. But I'm not giving up entirely. I've found small ways to cope, like cooking meals from scratch, which saves money and gives me some control. I started journaling, writing down my frustrations and dreams to remind myself that this isn't the whole story of my life. I'm trying to build a support system, reaching out to friends when I can, even if it's just to vent. I also take comfort in the small things, morning sunlight through my window, a good book, the rare moments of laughter. Most of all, I'm learning to hold on to hope differently now. Instead of big dreams I have to postpone indefinitely, I focus on little goals, saving a few dollars this week, applying for a better paying job, building skills online for free. I remind myself that progress might be slow and uneven, but it's still progress. Financial pressure isn't just about money, it's about feeling trapped, about dreams deferred, about the constant struggle to balance survival with the desire to thrive. I want to believe that someday, all this hard work and resilience will pay off, and I'll look back and see that this season of struggle was part of something bigger. But right now, it's just about getting through one day at a time, with honesty, with courage, and with the stubborn hope that things can change. I never imagined that by the time I hit 27, I'd feel so thoroughly trapped by money, like no matter how hard I push or how much I plan, I'm always just a few steps behind. It's this constant, exhausting cycle that I can't seem to break free from. Every day feels like a balancing act on a tightrope, except the rope is fraying and the wind is always picking up. I grew up thinking that if I worked hard, got a decent job, and managed my money responsibly, I'd be okay. But the reality is different, so much different. The cost of living keeps climbing, but my paycheck barely stretches. Rent in the city where I work has shot up again this year, groceries seem to cost more every week, and even basic things like bus fares or a night out with friends feel like luxuries now. The economic environment out here feels hostile, like an invisible force slowly squeezing the air out of my lungs. I remember sitting down with my bank app last month and staring at my balance, like it was some sort of puzzle I couldn't solve. The numbers didn't add up. After rent, utilities, food, and the necessary bills, there was barely anything left for the extras that make life feel worth living. I had to cancel my gym membership, something I used to rely on to manage stress. I swapped my usual evening takeout for instant noodles and canned beans. It's a domino effect, one cut leads to another, and suddenly, you realize you've given up more than you intended. There's this helplessness that creeps in quietly at first, then swells until it feels like a constant ache. The pressure isn't just financial, it's emotional and mental too. I wake up with a knot in my stomach worrying about whether I can cover unexpected expenses. Every bill feels like a threat. The anxiety has become part of my daily routine, like brushing my teeth or checking my phone. It's exhausting to constantly calculate, recalculate, and second-guess every decision. Even the smallest impulse to buy something, a book, a coffee, a gift, gets swallowed by the guilt of spending money I don't really have. It's hard to explain this feeling to people who don't live it. Sometimes, friends invite me out, and I have to say no, again. Or I have to come up with some excuse why I can't join that weekend trip or why I'm skipping a dinner. I hate feeling like the person who always says no. I hate the disappointment in my own voice when I say it. I want to be spontaneous, to enjoy life without counting every cent. But that's just not possible right now. The hardest part is the future, the dreams I had to push aside. I used to think I'd be able to save enough to travel, maybe go back to school for a master's degree, or even buy a small apartment one day. Those ideas feel like distant stars, shining faintly but so far away that I'm not sure I'll ever reach them. Instead, my goal now is just to survive, to keep my head above water. I feel like I'm on a treadmill that's speeding up, and I'm stuck running just to stay in place. Sometimes I wonder if I'm alone in this, or if everyone else is just better at hiding it. The pandemic made things worse, of course. I lost a part-time job I relied on to make ends meet, and even after things started reopening, the wages haven't caught up with the rising costs. Inflation isn't just a headline, it's the difference between eating a balanced meal or scraping by on the cheapest groceries. It's the reason I don't get a haircut as often. It's why I'm always looking for side gigs, hoping to patch the gaps. Coping isn't easy. I try to focus on small wins, like finding a cheaper bus route, meal prepping to save money, or cutting down on subscriptions. I talk to friends who understand, and that helps me feel less isolated. Sometimes, I write down what I'm feeling, trying to untangle the mess in my mind. But these are just band-aids on a bigger wound. Despite everything, I'm still hopeful, even if it's a quiet, cautious hope. I dream of a day when money isn't a source of constant stress. When I can think beyond rent and bills and allow myself to imagine a life that includes travel, hobbies, and security. I want to believe that the system isn't unbeatable, that with time and effort, I can build something better. But until then, the feeling of being stuck, like I'm running against a current that keeps pulling me back, remains my daily reality. This story isn't just about money. It's about feeling caught in a system where growth isn't guaranteed, where you can work yourself to the bone and still fall behind. It's about the toll it takes on your spirit, the dreams that quietly fade, and the resilience it takes just to keep going. I don't know how long I can keep this pace, but I'm still here, still trying, still hoping. Maybe one day, I'll tell a different story, one where the pressure lifts and the dreams come back into focus. Until then, I live with this mix of gratitude for what I have and frustration for what feels just out of reach. And maybe that's enough to keep me moving forward, one day at a time. It's strange how something as invisible as money can weigh so heavily on your chest every single day. I never thought I'd find myself in this spot, sitting in a cramped apartment with peeling paint on the walls, counting out every last cent before I even think about paying the bills. But here I am. 27, working full-time, yet constantly feeling like I'm sinking, caught in an endless tide of expenses rising faster than I can keep up. I remember when I first moved out on my own, fresh out of college. There was this naive sense of freedom, a quiet optimism that the world was mine to shape. I had a job, modest pay but enough, and I was sure with some careful budgeting, a little hustle, and maybe some luck, I could build something stable. But the truth is, the system isn't built for people like me. Or maybe it is, but it's rigged so the deck is stacked against anyone trying to climb out of the middle. Every month, I watch the numbers in my bank account shrink as rent goes up, groceries cost more, and the price of gas feels like a punch to the gut. It's not just the numbers, it's the feeling of being trapped, like no matter what I do, I'm on a hamster wheel going faster and faster but getting nowhere. When you're barely making enough to cover rent, utilities, insurance, and a few groceries, any unexpected expense is a disaster. A car repair, a medical bill, a broken phone screen, suddenly you're juggling debts and borrowing from friends, or worse, credit cards with their high interest rates. I've lost count of the times I've debated skipping meals just to stretch what little money I have left. There's a heavy exhaustion in living like this, a constant background stress that gnaws at your spirit. Sometimes it's hard to explain to others why I can't just go out or take a weekend trip or treat myself, because for me, those things feel like luxuries, not options. They're distant dreams I tuck away deep in the back of my mind, alongside more painful regrets. I used to dream of traveling, of going back to school for a degree that actually excited me, of saving enough to buy a small place of my own one day. Now those dreams seem like they belong to someone else. The emotional toll is real. I carry this heavy cloak of shame and frustration. Shame that I can't seem to get ahead, frustration at the endless rising costs I have no control over. It's lonely too. Most people my age seem to be moving forward, buying homes, getting married, starting families. I'm just trying to keep my head above water, hoping that the paycheck coming in next week will be enough to get through the month without another crisis. I don't want to burden my family with my struggles, they have their own. So I put on a brave face, laugh a little louder, make jokes about being forever broke, but inside I feel hollow. Coping with this pressure has become an exercise in creativity and discipline. I've learned to cook simple meals from scratch to save money, to find free or cheap entertainment, to carefully track every expense in a spreadsheet that feels more like a chain than a tool. I've started picking up odd side gigs, delivering food, freelancing, but those come with their own challenges, exhaustion, lack of stability, and zero benefits. Sometimes I remind myself it's a temporary sacrifice, but the truth is, temporary has stretched into years. There are days when the anxiety becomes overwhelming, nights where I lie awake worrying about next month's rent or whether my phone bill will go through. My heart races thinking about how much more I owe on my student loans, which feel like a ball and chain dragging me down. It's not just financial pressure, it's a pressure that seeps into my sense of self-worth. I start to question if I'm lazy or stupid, but deep down I know it's the system and the circumstances, not my value as a person. What keeps me going? I guess hope, stubborn and flickering, like a candle in a storm. I cling to the belief that things can get better, that if I can just hold on, make smarter choices, maybe learn new skills, eventually I'll break free from this cycle. I remind myself of the small wins, paying off a credit card bit by bit, managing to save $20 this month, landing a positive review on a side job. These moments, though small, feel like breaths of fresh air in the suffocating atmosphere of debt and bills. Sometimes I allow myself to dream again. I think about a future where I don't have to calculate the cost of every item in the grocery store, where I can actually rest without the weight of unpaid bills dragging me down. I imagine a tiny apartment filled with plants, walls I can paint any color I want, a few bookshelves with all the books I never had time to read. I picture traveling somewhere new, meeting people who aren't stressed about money, and maybe, just maybe, finding work that feels meaningful and pays enough to live comfortably. But those dreams are still on hold. Right now, I have to live in the moment, navigating a world where the price of living keeps going up, and my paycheck stays the same. I'm learning to accept the discomfort, the uncertainty, the slow progress. I'm learning to forgive myself for the things I can't control, to be gentle with my hopes, and to keep pushing forward even when the path feels impossibly steep. If I could say one thing to someone who hasn't felt this pressure, it would be this: it's not just about money. It's about dignity, about being seen and valued beyond your bank balance. It's about knowing that behind every forever broke joke is a real person carrying the weight of a system that too often leaves people like me behind. And maybe, just maybe, if we listen with more empathy, we can start to change that. Until then, I'll keep fighting, hoping that one day, the scales will tip, and I'll finally breathe easy again. I never thought I'd feel so trapped by money. It's strange, because when I was a kid, I thought I'd have everything figured out by now, that by my mid-20s, I'd be at least a little bit ahead, maybe saving for a place of my own or able to take a real vacation once in a while. Instead, I'm here, in this endless loop of paycheck-to-paycheck living, feeling like I'm barely treading water while the cost of everything keeps rising around me. Every morning starts the same way. I wake up, check my bank app, and sigh before I even get out of bed. It's like my balance is this small, fragile thing that I'm constantly trying to protect from the world, but the world keeps coming at it from all directions. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, they all feel like insurmountable mountains. And the more I try to climb, the steeper they get. I work a full-time job, sometimes pick up extra shifts, but it never feels like enough. Inflation is this silent thief stealing bits of my income before I even see it. I remember the days when I thought budgeting was a simple task, something I could master. Now, it feels like a cruel game. I track every dollar, plan every meal, and yet, somehow, I'm always short on cash by the end of the month. There's this constant tension inside me, a knot of anxiety that tightens whenever I open my mail or hear my phone buzz. Bills. Reminders. Offers to defer payments that I can't even afford. I've had to negotiate with creditors, explain late payments, all while trying not to let it crush my spirit. Social life has taken a huge hit. Friends invite me out, but I have to say no more often than not. I can't afford the price of entry, the cost of dinner, drinks, or even just a bus ticket. Sometimes, I feel like I'm fading into the background, losing touch with the people I care about. It hurts, but I try not to let them see it. I don't want to be the person who's always the no in the group. The emotional weight of this is hard to put into words. There's a pervasive sense of failure, even though I know logically that this isn't about my personal worth. But when every choice feels like a compromise, it chips away at your confidence. I wake up some days feeling overwhelmed, suffocated by the sheer scale of what I can't change. The news doesn't help, stories about economic downturns, job insecurity, skyrocketing housing prices. It's like the entire system is designed to keep people like me in this cycle, where expenses grow faster than income, and hope feels more like a luxury than a right. Sleep is often elusive. I lie awake thinking about what I have to do tomorrow, how I'll stretch my budget, which payment I'll delay or cut back on. The uncertainty gnaws at me. I sometimes wonder if I'm the only one feeling this way, but then I catch snippets of conversations, overhear friends or coworkers hinting at their own struggles. It's a quiet, shared suffering that no one talks about openly. Coping is its own challenge. I try to find small joys, a walk in the park, a cheap movie night at home, reading a book borrowed from the library. These little escapes remind me that life isn't just about survival. But even those moments are tinged with frustration. I'm constantly aware of what I'm missing out on, the dreams I've had to shelve indefinitely. I once wanted to travel, to see new places and meet new people. I wanted to go back to school, to invest in myself and build a better future. But those plans now seem like distant fantasies, replaced by the daily grind of making ends meet. I hold on to hope, though, even if it's fragile. I tell myself this phase won't last forever, that I'll find a way out, maybe a better job, a side hustle that finally pays off, or a sudden break that changes everything. But sometimes, the weight of the present moment makes it hard to believe in that future. I'm caught in this system where every step forward feels like 2 steps back, and it's exhausting. I want people to understand that financial pressure isn't just about numbers on a screen. It's about the emotional toll, the dreams deferred, the constant juggling act that never stops. It's about feeling stuck in a world that moves too fast, costs too much, and leaves too little room to breathe. This is my truth, and I'm sharing it because maybe, just maybe, someone else feels the same way, and maybe, together, we can find a way to break free. Some days it feels like I'm just treading water, barely keeping my head above the surface. Every morning I wake up, and the first thing on my mind isn't hope or excitement, it's the growing list of bills, the rent that eats up half my paycheck, the grocery prices that keep climbing while my income stays stubbornly the same. It's exhausting, and sometimes it's just overwhelming. I'm 27, working a steady job that I'm grateful for, but the paycheck never seems to stretch far enough. I remember when I first started out, I thought, okay, I'll work hard, save a bit, maybe move into a nicer apartment, go out more, have some fun. But what I didn't expect was how fast everything would become out of reach. The cost of living has exploded, rent hikes, gas prices, healthcare, food, and my salary? It's like it's stuck on pause. There's this sinking feeling that no matter how hard I work, I'm just spinning my wheels in place, maybe even sliding backwards. Some mornings, I'm so tired I consider calling in sick just to skip the whole routine, but I can't. Not when every missed day is money lost, money that I need to pay off my student loans, to keep the lights on, to put some food on the table. I've had to tighten the belt so much that even small extras feel like luxuries. A night out with friends is a rare treat, and even then I'm calculating every dollar. Can I afford to split a cab? Should I just stay home and watch a movie instead? The financial pressure colors everything. I catch myself obsessing over prices when I shop, comparing brands, checking for sales, sometimes even skipping meals just to save a few bucks. I've learned to avoid places where I might be tempted to spend on things I don't really need. The joy I used to find in simple pleasures has dimmed because even those feel out of reach. And it's not just about money. It's the emotional weight of feeling stuck. I know I'm not alone, plenty of people my age are in the same boat, but that doesn't make it easier. There's this constant background noise in my head. Am I doing enough? Should I be making different choices? What if this is my life forever? I want to believe there's a way out, but it feels like the system is built to keep me down. Expenses rise faster than wages. Jobs that once promised security now offer precarious gigs with little stability. I'm constantly anxious about unexpected costs, a car repair, a medical bill, anything that could throw me into a deeper hole. I live with this gnawing fear that one small crisis will unravel all the careful progress I've made. Sometimes I talk to friends about it, and I'm surprised how many are silently struggling too. We exchange tips on saving, joke about the absurdity of our paychecks versus our expenses, but underneath there's a shared exhaustion. We're all trying to carve out a life in a world that feels designed to squeeze every last cent from us. I try to cope the best I can. I keep a budget, obsessively tracking every expense. I set small goals, saving $50 a month, cutting out one expensive habit, cooking more at home. Those little victories give me something to hold on to, a reminder that I'm not powerless. But even then, I have to be realistic. Some dreams have been shelved indefinitely. I used to want to travel, to see the world beyond the city skyline I wake up to every day. Now, a plane ticket feels like a fantasy I can't afford. I postponed further education because tuition feels like a mountain I can't climb without sinking deeper into debt. Even simple things, like upgrading my laptop or buying a decent winter coat, get delayed until there's some breathing room, which never seems to come. There's a loneliness in it, too. Financial stress isolates you in ways you don't expect. You say no to invitations, you avoid social situations where money talk might come up, you hide the truth about how tight things really are because you don't want pity or judgment. It's a secret burden that weighs heavily on your sense of self-worth. But despite everything, I hold on to hope. I believe this isn't the end of my story. I remind myself that this difficult chapter won't define me forever. Maybe someday the economy will shift, maybe I'll find a better opportunity, maybe my hard work will pay off in ways I can't yet see. I dream of a time when I can breathe easier, when money isn't the first thing on my mind, when I can finally start living instead of just surviving. For now, I keep going. I keep waking up, going to work, paying my bills, cutting costs, and dreaming small dreams. Because even if it's hard to see the light, it's there, faint, distant, but still real. And maybe that's enough to keep me moving forward, one day at a time. It's a weird kind of exhaustion, the kind that settles deep in your bones, a constant weight pressing on your chest. I wake up every morning feeling like I'm already behind, like the moment my eyes open, I'm running a race I can never win. My name's Jamie, I'm 27, and for the past few years, financial pressure has been this relentless storm swirling around me. It's not just numbers in a bank account, it's the background noise of worry that never quite goes away. I remember when I first started feeling it, around the time I graduated college and landed my first real job. I was proud. I thought, finally, I'd be able to breathe, pay my own bills, maybe save a little, and even think about the future. But reality hit fast and hard. Rent was sky high, and every paycheck seemed to evaporate the moment it arrived. There was this illusion that if you worked hard, you'd get ahead, but for me, it felt like I was stuck on a treadmill moving faster than I could run. The economy around me doesn't help. Prices keep rising, groceries, gas, utilities, everything feels like it costs more each month. But my paycheck barely budges. Sometimes I think about the math, and it makes my head spin. Inflation is outpacing my raises. The cost of living shoots up, and I'm left trying to squeeze the same budget into an ever smaller space. It's like the whole system is designed to keep me just barely afloat. I call it the trap because I don't know any other way to describe it. Every day, decisions that should be simple become battles. Do I fix the car that's been sputtering for months, or do I wait and risk it breaking down completely? Should I cook at home or buy something quick on my lunch break, even though it's more expensive? Can I afford to take the bus this week if the gas price jumps again? I find myself calculating everything, every dollar, every cent, and sometimes I lie awake at night wondering where it all went wrong. The emotional toll is harder to put into words. I've always been someone who tried to stay positive, to push through. But the constant pressure wears you down. There are nights when the anxiety creeps in so thickly that I feel like I'm drowning. I worry about the future, not just mine, but my family's too. Sometimes I get angry, frustrated at a system that seems to reward those already ahead and leaves the rest of us scrambling. Other times, I feel shame. Shame for not having more, shame for struggling when I know others have it worse. It's complicated. I cope the best I can. I've learned to live frugally, cut out luxuries, and even simple pleasures. Streaming services got cancelled, nights out with friends became rare, and vacations? A distant memory. I get creative, meal prepping to save money, hunting for deals, and even picking up odd gigs on the side when I can. But those side gigs come at the cost of rest and time with people I care about. Sometimes I feel like I'm sacrificing parts of myself just to keep the lights on. The hardest part is the dreams I've had to put on hold. I once imagined owning a small apartment, maybe even adopting a dog. I dreamed about traveling, about going back to school to study something I love instead of just what pays the bills. Now, those dreams feel like a luxury I can't afford. I wonder if I'll ever have the chance to build a real foundation for my life or if I'm just stuck in survival mode forever. Still, somewhere beneath the exhaustion, there's a flicker of hope. I try to remind myself that this moment doesn't define me, that maybe someday things will shift. I imagine a future where I'm not constantly looking over my shoulder at bills and prices, where I can save for retirement or finally take that trip I've dreamed about. But right now, hope is fragile, like a candle flickering against the wind. I talk about this because I want others to understand, this isn't just about money. It's about how financial pressure shapes everything, how you think, how you feel, how you plan or don't plan. It's about feeling trapped in a system where expenses outpace income, where the promises of progress seem just out of reach. I'm still here, still trying, but some days, that's all I can do. And maybe that's enough for now. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. It's late again. The kind of late where the city quiets down but my mind won't. I sit at my small kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of unopened bills, my laptop glowing with the latest bank statement, and a cold cup of coffee I forgot to finish hours ago. Every number on the screen feels like a weight pressing on my chest, heavier than the last. I'm 26, and some days it feels like I'm sinking deeper into quicksand. No matter how hard I struggle, I just keep getting pulled under by this relentless tide of expenses. I never imagined life would be like this when I was younger. Back then, I pictured myself on a different path, maybe finishing grad school, traveling somewhere far away, or even buying a little apartment with a balcony to grow some plants. Instead, I'm here, in a cramped one-bedroom that's more expensive than I care to admit, wrestling with the reality that everything I earn somehow disappears before I even notice. Rent keeps rising, groceries cost more every week, and utility bills, oh, those keep climbing like they're competing for the highest prize. My paycheck feels like a dripping faucet, slowly but surely draining into a bucket full of holes. I work a full-time job that I like, but it's not enough. Every year, there's a cost of living increase announced somewhere, but it's like a cruel joke, prices shoot up much faster than any raise I get. I remember when $1 could still buy a decent meal without me having to calculate every ingredient or clip coupons like I'm auditioning for a survival show. Now, I scan grocery store flyers, hunt for sales, and plan my meals down to the penny. Cooking has become less about enjoyment and more about necessity, a daily math problem I have to solve to keep myself fed. Sometimes I think about how this pressure has seeped into every part of my life, like an invisible poison. It's not just about money, it's the constant anxiety that shadows me, the way it gnaws at my confidence and makes me question every decision. I hesitate before answering texts because I'm not sure if I can afford to go out. I avoid family gatherings because they usually end with questions about when I'll settle down or get a better job. And I definitely don't bring up my financial struggles to friends. I'm too ashamed to admit that I'm barely scraping by while they seem to be moving ahead. This feeling of being trapped is the worst. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up every time I think I've caught my breath. The system feels designed to keep people like me in place. Expenses rise, wages don't, and if you try to climb out, you risk everything breaking down. I have a small emergency fund, but it's more of a psychological comfort than actual protection. The truth is, one unexpected expense, a medical bill, a car repair, or even my phone dying, could topple me completely. I cope the best I can. Some days, I put on a brave face, throw on my headphones, and dive into music or podcasts that distract me from the gnawing stress. Other days, I try to squeeze out moments of joy, reading a book, going for a walk in the park, or binge-watching a show with a friend. But even those moments are tinged with the awareness that they're fleeting, luxuries I can't always afford in time or money. I've had to postpone so many dreams. A trip to Europe that felt so close just a few years ago now seems like a fantasy from another lifetime. Saving for a down payment on a house? Forget it. Retirement? It's laughable. Every time I try to plan ahead, reality crashes in, reminding me that right now, survival is the only plan I can stick to. I tell myself this is temporary, that I'm building something even if it's invisible right now. But sometimes, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Still, I hold on to hope. Hope that someday I'll be able to breathe without this constant pressure, that I can live without feeling like every decision is a trade-off between sanity and survival. I dream of stability, a steady income that grows with me, a place that feels truly mine, and the freedom to say yes to opportunities instead of always saying no. I want to believe that the system can change, that people like me won't have to keep fighting just to stay afloat. Tonight, as I shut my laptop and tuck the bills back into their envelope, I remind myself I'm not alone. There are so many others feeling the same squeeze, caught in the same cycle. Maybe that's a small comfort. And maybe, just maybe, that shared struggle will be the start of something better. For now, I'll keep going, one day, one paycheck, one small victory at a time. Because giving up isn't an option, even if it feels like the world is trying to push me down. This is my story. This is my fight. I remember when I first got my paycheck after college, that moment felt like crossing a finish line I'd been chasing for years. It was this hopeful surge, thinking, now I'm finally on my own, ready to build my life. But that excitement didn't last long. Almost immediately, reality set in like a heavy fog: rent, bills, groceries, student loans, unexpected expenses. Everything seemed to add up faster than my bank account could keep pace. Living in this economic climate as a young adult feels like being stuck in a loop I can't break. Every month, it's the same math: income comes in, then quickly disappears into rent, utilities, insurance, and food. I try to budget, to be smart with my money, but the numbers barely budge. It's like chasing a shadow. Expenses grow faster than my income, and no matter how hard I run, I'm just stuck on a treadmill going nowhere. Some days, the pressure feels suffocating. I wake up, lie in bed for a minute, and wonder if this is really how my life is supposed to be, constantly juggling between surviving and dreaming. There's this underlying anxiety, this gnawing fear that if I slip up just once, miss a payment, spend too much on a night out, or delay a bill, everything could spiral. That fear never really leaves me, even in moments of brief relief. Decisions that seem small to others take on enormous weight for me. Choosing between buying groceries or topping up the bus card, or deciding if it's worth it to replace worn-out shoes now or wait until they're completely falling apart. I've learned to live by the rule of do without more times than I can count. I skip dinners out with friends, I delay doctor visits, and I hunt for sales on the most basic necessities. Every choice feels like a test of how much I can stretch, how little I can survive on. And yet, there's this strange emotional loneliness that comes with it. When your friends talk about traveling, buying cars, or moving into nicer apartments, you smile and nod, but inside, you're quietly grieving the dreams you've had to postpone, maybe indefinitely. I used to imagine myself owning a home by my early 30s, having a stable savings account, maybe even going back to school to get a master's degree. Now those ideas feel like luxuries, distant horizons I don't have the energy or money to chase. There's a part of me that worries I'm invisible in this system, like the economic forces are designed to keep people like me barely afloat, just enough to keep working but never enough to thrive. The constant pressure chips away at confidence, makes me question my worth, and sometimes even wonder if I'm doing something wrong. I know logically that's not true, it's the system, not me, but it's hard to shake that feeling when the bills keep piling up. Coping has become a daily exercise in balancing reality and hope. I find small ways to reclaim moments of peace and joy: a walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library, a quiet morning coffee ritual. These small pockets of calm are lifelines. I've also started talking more openly about money struggles with close friends, and that honesty has helped a lot. It's surprising how isolating financial stress can be, and how just knowing you're not alone makes the burden a little lighter. I've also learned to celebrate the little wins. Paying off a credit card, saving even a few dollars in an emergency fund, or finally fixing the leaky faucet in my apartment. These small victories don't erase the bigger struggles, but they remind me that I'm still moving forward, even if it's just inch by inch. At night, when the apartment is quiet, I let myself imagine what life could be without this constant financial strain. I picture waking up without that gnawing stress in my chest, having enough savings to handle emergencies without panic, and maybe even pursuing those postponed dreams, like traveling, further education, or starting my own business. These dreams keep me going, even though they seem so far away. It's hard not to feel trapped, but I try to remind myself that this isn't the whole story of my life. I'm more than my paycheck or my bills. I'm trying to build resilience and patience, learning to navigate a system that isn't set up for me to succeed easily. And maybe, someday, I'll look back and see this period as a tough chapter that taught me how to fight, how to hope, and how to keep moving forward, even when it feels impossible. For now, I'm doing what I can, stretching every dollar, holding on to small joys, and daring to dream, even if those dreams seem out of reach. It's not an easy path, but it's mine, and I'm determined to keep walking it. It's hard to put into words the exact feeling of waking up every morning knowing that no matter how hard you try, the money you bring in just won't stretch far enough. I'm 26, and the world I live in feels like a trap, a slow squeeze of everything that makes life livable: hope, freedom, peace, being steadily strangled by bills that rise faster than my paycheck ever will. I graduated college a few years ago, full of those typical big dreams, the kind they sell you with shiny brochures and pep talks: change the world, live your passion, follow your dreams. But here I am, sitting in my tiny apartment, staring at a bank account that barely makes it through the month. The rent has gone up again. The groceries, the gas, the utilities, everything feels like it's in fast forward, rising higher, while my income trudges along at a snail's pace. It's exhausting. Some days, I barely notice the pressure until I open an email from the utility company or glance at my credit card statement. That tight feeling in my chest creeps up, a mix of anxiety and defeat. It's like a constant background noise, a dull ache that I carry with me everywhere. I want to scream sometimes, scream at a system that seems designed to keep me running in place, to make me work harder for less, to keep me from breaking free. Most mornings, I have a ritual: coffee brewed at home, because buying it out is a luxury I can't afford, toast instead of anything fancy for breakfast, and a quick scan of my budget app to see how many more days I can stretch the little I have left. I've become an expert at cutting corners, switching to generic brands, canceling subscriptions, holding off on doctor visits unless absolutely necessary. I've put off getting new glasses for over a year because I just can't afford them right now. My health, my well-being, feels like a second priority after rent and food. Work isn't a refuge. I'm in a job that pays the bills but drains the soul. I clock in, do my tasks mechanically, and clock out. The best I can hope for is a promotion or a raise that never comes. Even when I think about side gigs or freelance work, the time and energy they demand feel impossible to muster. By the end of the day, I'm often too tired to do anything beyond collapse on the couch, scrolling through social media and watching people live lives I can only dream of. I remember what it was like to dream without limits. I wanted to travel, to see new places and meet new people. I wanted to start my own business someday, something meaningful that made a difference. But those dreams have been pushed further and further into the background, replaced by a daily survival mindset. Instead of planning trips, I'm planning how to make my paycheck last until the next one. Instead of thinking about future goals, I'm thinking about which bill I can delay, how to avoid overdraft fees, and whether it's time to dip into my emergency savings, if I even have enough left for emergencies anymore. There's a deep loneliness in all this, too. Friends get engaged, buy houses, take vacations, start families. They talk about their goals and their plans, and sometimes I wonder if they even realize how different our realities are. I'm proud of them, truly, but it hurts to be left behind in this cycle of scarcity. It's hard not to feel like I'm failing somehow, even though I know logically that this system isn't built to support people like me. Sometimes, I think about giving up on dreams, giving up on hope, even giving up on myself. But then I remember the reasons I keep going, the small moments of joy, the rare compliments from coworkers, the kindness of strangers, the hope that maybe one day the tide will turn. I find comfort in those moments, no matter how fleeting. Coping means learning to accept the uncertainty and finding pockets of peace where I can. I take walks in the park, which are free. I read books borrowed from the library instead of buying new ones. I call my family when I need a reminder that I'm not alone, even if they can't solve my problems. I try to find gratitude in small things, even if it feels like a bandage over a much deeper wound. Sometimes, I write. Writing helps me process the frustration, the sadness, the flickers of hope. It's a way to keep hold of the parts of myself that this financial pressure tries to erode. I remind myself that I'm more than my bank balance, more than the numbers on a paycheck, more than the endless cycle of expenses and debt. I don't have all the answers. I don't know when or how things will change. But I do know that I want to keep fighting, even if the system feels rigged. I want to believe that there's more to life than just surviving, that maybe, one day, I'll be able to thrive. Until then, I hold on to that hope, fragile as it is, and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Because if I don't, who will? And maybe, just maybe, that's enough for now. I don't even remember the last time I felt truly free. Not free from responsibility, because that's never really been an option, but free from this constant, gnawing pressure that sits on my chest like a heavy weight. It's this invisible hand that's always there, tightening a little more every day, reminding me that no matter how hard I try, I'm never quite catching up. It's weird to think about money like it's a living thing, but it feels like it controls me more than I control it. Since graduating college, I've been swimming upstream in a river that's only gotten faster and deeper. Every month, my paycheck arrives, and before I even get to breathe, bills, rent, groceries, and unexpected expenses have already swallowed most of it. What's left is barely enough to cover anything beyond the essentials. And even those essentials, rent, utilities, gas, keep creeping higher, like they're on a relentless march upwards, dragging me with them. I'm 26 now, working a job that's steady but far from lucrative. I thought that with a degree in hand, I'd be stepping into something better, something that felt worth the years of sacrifice. But it's like the economy had other plans. Inflation keeps driving prices up while my raises are tiny crumbs, barely keeping pace. It feels like the system is rigged in a way that I didn't understand before, like it expects me to keep pushing harder, working longer, but never really lets me get ahead. Every morning, I wake up and think about what my money is going to have to stretch across today. Will I have enough for groceries? Should I skip the coffee I usually treat myself to just to save a few bucks? Do I spend on the bus, or walk, even if it means being late? These might sound small, but they're the kind of decisions that wear you down when they become your routine. They make you feel small, like you're living life on the sidelines while everyone else is running the race. I've had to postpone dreams I once held tightly. I wanted to move out of the cramped apartment I share with 2 roommates, maybe even start saving for a place of my own. Instead, I'm still here, squeezing into this tiny room, listening to the walls close in a little more every night. I dreamed about traveling, about seeing the world, about experiencing life beyond this bubble of survival. But those dreams seem so far away now, almost like they belong to someone else. The worst part is the feeling of being trapped. It's like I'm caught in a loop where expenses grow faster than income, and every time I try to claw my way out, something pulls me back down, a car repair, a medical bill, or just the rising cost of living. The system feels like a maze designed to keep people like me moving in circles. I've tried budgeting, cutting back, picking up side gigs, but it never feels like enough. Sometimes, it's just exhausting to keep trying. Emotionally, it's a heavy load. There are nights I lie awake, heart pounding, thinking about what would happen if something bigger broke, losing my job, a health emergency, anything that would push me off this already narrow ledge. Anxiety has become a constant companion. I'm scared to hope too much, scared to plan too far ahead because it feels like the floor could drop beneath me at any moment. But amidst all this, I do have ways of coping. I talk to friends who are going through similar struggles, and somehow, knowing I'm not alone helps. I try to hold on to small joys, a walk in the park, a phone call with family, a good book borrowed from the library. These moments remind me that life isn't only about money, even if it feels that way sometimes. I'm learning to be kinder to myself, to recognize that surviving this system is a victory in itself. I'm trying to build a small mental space where hope can live, even if it's just a flicker right now. Maybe one day, I'll look back and see this time as the fire that forged my resilience. Maybe I'll find a way out of this loop, or maybe I'll find a new path entirely. For now, I'm here, still pushing forward, still trying to keep my dreams alive, even if they look different than I once imagined. Because at the end of the day, I have to believe there's more to life than just getting by. There has to be. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up every day, and no matter how fast I go, I'm stuck in the same place. I'm 26 now, and most mornings I wake up with this heavy knot in my chest before I even open my eyes. It's not exactly anxiety, but it's close, a mix of stress, disappointment, and that constant gnawing worry about money. It's like my whole life has become about the endless balancing act of trying to stay afloat, but the water keeps rising. I work full-time at a marketing firm, nothing glamorous, just a desk job with decent hours. I thought having a steady paycheck would be enough, but it feels like that paycheck barely touches the surface of my expenses. Rent alone eats up almost half of what I bring home. I live in a tiny apartment that costs way too much for what it is, in a city that's getting more expensive every year. The landlord raised the rent again last month, by $75. It's not a huge amount on paper, but when you live paycheck to paycheck, it's like a punch to the gut. Groceries have become a strategic game. I spend more time comparing prices, clipping coupons, and planning meals than I ever imagined I would. There are days I skip lunch just to make sure I can afford gas for the car or get a few extra dollars saved toward a bill. Social life? Almost non-existent. Every time a friend texts about grabbing drinks or going out, I have to do the math in my head. Usually, it means saying no, again. It's lonely, but the alternative is sinking deeper into debt. Bills pile up relentlessly, utilities, phone, internet, student loans that never seem to shrink no matter how much I pay. The interest rates are brutal, and sometimes I wonder if I'm just feeding a machine that's designed to keep me trapped. Credit cards feel like a trap, too, but sometimes they're the only option when an unexpected car repair pops up or my phone breaks. It's exhausting. I catch myself dreaming of a future where I'm not constantly worried about money, maybe owning a home, or traveling, or even just saving for a rainy day. But those dreams feel so far away, like stars on a cloudy night. I think the hardest part is feeling invisible in the system. The economy around me is booming on the surface. News stories talk about growth and recovery, but my reality couldn't be more different. Wages haven't really kept pace with inflation, and everything costs more, from groceries to healthcare. I see companies posting record profits while I'm stuck figuring out how to make the electric bill less painful. It's frustrating and disheartening, and it chips away at my confidence. I start to wonder if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm just not smart enough to figure this out. Some days, the weight feels unbearable. I've had moments where I question if it's all worth it, working so hard just to cover the basics. I think about the mental toll it takes. I have trouble sleeping, and my mood swings more than I'd like to admit. I try to stay positive, but the pressure is always there, lurking under the surface. It's hard to feel hopeful when you're trapped in a loop of expenses growing faster than your income, and every small crisis sets you back weeks, sometimes months. To cope, I've learned to celebrate the tiny victories. Like finally paying off a credit card balance or managing to save $50 in a month. I remind myself that progress, no matter how small, is still progress. I've cut back on so many things, eating out, subscriptions, even skipping doctor appointments, just to keep my head above water. Sometimes I volunteer for extra projects at work hoping for a raise or bonus, though deep down I'm skeptical it'll make much difference. I've postponed so many dreams. I used to want to go back to school, maybe get a master's degree, but the tuition and lost income make that impossible right now. I dreamt of traveling, seeing new places, but now even a weekend trip feels like a luxury I can't afford. I used to imagine having the freedom to pursue creative projects or hobbies, but after paying bills, there's barely any energy or money left. It's like I'm stuck on pause, waiting for something to change. Despite all this, I hold on to hope. I believe that one day, maybe in a few years, the economy will shift in a way that works for people like me, not just the top 1%. I hope wages will catch up with the cost of living, and maybe we'll see policies that make housing more affordable and healthcare accessible. Until then, I'm learning to be resilient, to find joy in small things, a good book, a walk in the park, a chat with a friend over coffee, homemade, of course. Sharing this feels vulnerable because it's the reality so many of us live with but rarely talk about. The truth is, I'm tired. Tired of feeling trapped in a system that values profit over people. But I'm not giving up. I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. Because what else can you do when you're running on that speeding treadmill but keep moving forward, step by step, hoping someday you'll break free? I never thought financial pressure would shape so much of my daily life, not just the big decisions, but the tiny ones too. It's like living in a slow, grinding machine that never stops, and no matter how hard I pedal, I don't get anywhere. Each month, when the bills come, they feel less like reminders of what I owe and more like proof that the system itself is designed to hold me down. I'm 27, working a steady job, not even making a lot by today's standards. Just enough to cover rent, utilities, food, and a few necessities, but never quite enough for anything extra. The rent alone feels like an endless pit, every year it creeps higher, faster than my paycheck ever does. And it's not just rent. The price of groceries, gas, insurance, even basic stuff like toiletries and laundry detergent keeps climbing, but my income hasn't caught up. I'm trapped in this endless game of catch-up, but the rules keep changing, and the finish line keeps moving farther away. Every morning, I wake up and run through this mental checklist before I even get out of bed. How much do I have left for food this week? Did I pay the electricity bill or is it still pending? Is there anything I can skip this month? Can I delay the dentist appointment again? It's exhausting to think like that all the time. It's not the kind of mental exercise anyone signs up for. Most days, I just want to push all those thoughts away, but they're always there, hanging in the back of my mind like a constant weight. I remember a time, not too long ago, when I dreamed freely. I wanted to travel, go back to school, maybe start a small side business or even save enough for a down payment on a place of my own. Now, those dreams feel like luxuries, things I whisper about when no one's listening. The truth is, I put so many hopes on hold because the cost of living keeps swallowing my earnings whole. When I talk to friends, some are lucky enough to be in better financial spots, and others are in the same boat or worse. There's this silent understanding among us, but also a lot of shame and frustration. People don't always get how wearing this kind of financial stress daily eats away at your sense of self-worth. You start questioning if you're just not working hard enough, if you're somehow failing, even though deep down you know the problem isn't just personal, it's systemic. It's the feeling of being stuck in a loop, where no matter how many hours I put in, I can't seem to get ahead. When I do manage to save a little, an emergency always seems to pull it away, a car repair, a medical bill, or something unexpected. Those moments feel like punches to the gut. You scramble to hold on, but the ground beneath you keeps shifting. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster I never wanted to ride. Some days I feel hopeless, overwhelmed by anxiety about the future. Other days, I try to stay positive, reminding myself that this isn't permanent, that if I just keep pushing, things might change. But it's hard not to get cynical. It's hard not to wonder if the future I imagine will ever be mine or just a fantasy to keep me going. I've developed coping mechanisms to survive. Budgeting obsessively is one. Tracking every penny, no matter how small the expense, trying to squeeze value out of everything I buy. I shop sales and use coupons, even if it feels humiliating sometimes. I cook almost all my meals at home instead of eating out, and I avoid social outings because the cost feels prohibitive. I have to make choices about which needs get met and which get postponed, sometimes indefinitely. There's also the emotional side. I try to lean on a few close friends who understand without judgment. I journal sometimes, letting the frustration spill out on paper so it doesn't consume me. I remind myself to celebrate small wins, like managing to save a little, or getting through a tough month without falling behind. Those moments feel like tiny lights in a dark tunnel. But even with those strategies, the pressure never fully goes away. I think about what I'd tell my younger self if I could, maybe that it's okay to feel overwhelmed, that the struggle isn't a reflection of my worth. That being stuck in this system doesn't mean I'm broken, just caught in something bigger than me. Looking ahead, I'm cautiously hopeful. I try to keep some space for my dreams, even if they're on pause. Maybe one day, I'll travel again, or return to school, or buy a home. For now, I hold on to those possibilities because without them, it feels like there's nothing to reach for at all. Financial pressure isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's the slow erosion of hope and freedom. It colors every decision I make and shadows every moment I live. But it's also teaching me resilience and grit, even if I wish the lessons came without so much pain. I'm still here, still trying, still hoping, even when the system tries to convince me otherwise. I wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach, that familiar heavy feeling like I'm carrying a weight I can't see but can't ignore. The world outside feels like it's moving faster, prices climbing higher, while my paycheck barely stretches enough to cover the basics. It's exhausting, and honestly, it's starting to wear me down in ways I never imagined. I'm 26, working a steady job, not glamorous, but enough to get by, or so I thought. Yet somehow, no matter how careful I am, the bills keep piling up. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, it feels like a slow drip of pressure, day after day. And then there are the unexpected expenses, car troubles, a medical bill, or something just breaking down at home, that hit like a punch in the gut. I remind myself to be grateful for having a job at all, especially in this economy, but it doesn't erase the sting of feeling trapped. The truth is, I'm stuck. Stuck in a cycle where everything I earn goes out the door before I even get the chance to breathe. I budget meticulously, tracking every dollar, clipping coupons, cooking at home instead of going out, and still, the numbers never add up. The cost of living feels like a tide rising faster than I can swim. It's as if the system is designed so that no matter what I do, I'm always a step behind, always scrambling to catch up. Sometimes, I wonder if this is how it's supposed to be, if everyone feels this way under the surface, carrying invisible burdens, pretending it's normal. I see people around me posting about vacations, new gadgets, or nights out, and part of me envies that freedom. But mostly, I just feel exhausted and embarrassed. I've had to say no to so many invitations because I can't afford it. I postponed dreams, traveling, saving for my own place, even starting that side project I was passionate about, because I don't have the financial safety net to take those risks. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. Some days, I'm determined, telling myself that if I just keep pushing, I'll find a way out. Other days, it's overwhelming. The anxiety creeps in. What if I lose this job? What if something big and unexpected happens? What if I'm stuck like this forever? It's a dark place, that what if spiral. I found myself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how to make it all balance out. To cope, I've learned to find small moments of peace. A walk in the park, a quiet evening with a book, a call with a close friend who understands. I try to focus on what I can control, even if it's just managing my budget or learning a new skill online for free. Sometimes, I journal, pouring out all the frustrations and fears, hoping that by putting it into words, it will feel less suffocating. And every now and then, I let myself dream. I imagine what life would look like if money wasn't the constant barrier, what I'd do if I could just breathe, save, and invest in myself. I hold on to those dreams because they remind me why I'm enduring this. I want to own a little place that feels like home, a space where I'm not counting pennies but planning a future. I want to travel, see new places, meet new people. I want to feel proud of my work and have the freedom to create, explore, and live without that nagging fear in the back of my mind. But right now, those dreams feel distant, like stars just out of reach. For the moment, my focus is on survival, on managing the daily grind, on trying not to lose hope. The system feels cold and unforgiving, but I'm trying to remind myself that this isn't my whole story. One day, I hope to look back and see this time as a chapter, not the whole book. Until then, I'll keep waking up, carrying this weight, but also holding on to that flicker of hope that things can change. Because even when trapped, we still dream. I never thought I'd find myself feeling this way, trapped, overwhelmed, constantly anxious, but here I am. At 27, I'm working full-time, trying to keep my head above water, but the weight of money hangs on me like a thick, suffocating fog. It's like I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving farther away, no matter how fast I push myself. Each morning starts the same. I wake up before my alarm, heart already pounding. My mind spins with a mental checklist: rent due in 10 days, car insurance next week, groceries for the week, a credit card bill I still haven't fully paid off. The numbers don't add up. They never do. I grab my phone, scroll through my banking app, and feel a familiar knot twist in my stomach. My paycheck came in yesterday, enough to cover rent, maybe a bit left for food, but nothing else. The rising prices everywhere hit me before I even leave the house: gas stations, grocery stores, even the little corner deli where I used to grab a quick sandwich. It's all gone up. Everything. Except my paycheck. I work in a small marketing firm, something I'm proud of and genuinely interested in. It's not glamorous, but I like the creative side of it. Still, after years of trying to climb the ladder, my salary hasn't grown nearly as much as my expenses. Every raise feels like a small pat on the back that barely covers the rising cost of rent or utilities. And speaking of rent, it's a never-ending source of anxiety. The apartment I live in is modest, not even in the best neighborhood, yet every year, the landlord raises the rent again. I've moved twice in the past 5 years, trying to find cheaper options, but it's like a cruel game. The cheaper places are further away, older, less safe, and cost more in transportation. The cycle never ends. When I was a kid, I dreamed big. I imagined myself owning a home by now, traveling to new countries, maybe even starting a family someday. Those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful but unreachable. I've had to postpone everything that once felt important. A car? That's a luxury I can't justify right now. Even a night out with friends has become a rare treat because every dollar counts. I see people around me making big purchases, planning vacations, buying new gadgets, and I wonder, how? How do they do it? Are they just luckier? More privileged? Or is it something I'm missing? Sometimes, I feel guilty for these thoughts. I know millions are struggling, maybe even worse than me. But that doesn't make the feeling any less real. The financial pressure seeps into every part of my life. I avoid calling my parents too often because I don't want to burden them or make them worry. I stopped going to therapy because the co-payments added up. My mental health sometimes feels like it's dangling by a thread, but paying for self-care feels like a selfish indulgence. The emotional toll is exhausting. There are days when I feel like I'm drowning, like I'm stuck in quicksand, and the harder I fight, the deeper I sink. The stress bleeds into my relationships. I catch myself snapping at friends or shutting down when the topic of money comes up. I try to smile and act normal, but inside, I'm counting cents and worrying about bills. I'm scared to ask for help because I don't want to be a burden, but sometimes, it's almost unbearable. Coping has become a daily battle. I keep a strict budget, track every expense down to the last cent, and clip coupons like I'm preparing for a war. I've taken on side gigs, odd jobs and freelance writing just to scrape together a few extra dollars. But the more I work, the less time I have to rest or dream. I've had to give up hobbies, social events, even the occasional small pleasure like a new book or a coffee out. Sometimes, I catch myself zoning out in front of the TV, trying to distract my mind from the constant worry. I journal sometimes, trying to make sense of it all, hoping that writing it down will ease the pressure inside my chest. Despite everything, I hold on to a fragile hope. I remind myself that this phase won't last forever. I talk to myself like a coach, whispering that better days will come, even if they seem impossibly far away. I've started saving small amounts when I can, building a tiny safety net, even if it's just a few dollars a month. I dream quietly now, maybe not the big, flashy dreams from childhood, but smaller ones. Like finally paying off my credit cards without stress, or one day taking a weekend trip somewhere new, even if it's just a nearby town. I'm learning to be kinder to myself. To recognize that struggling with money doesn't mean I'm weak or failing. It means I'm human, living in a world that often feels rigged against people like me. The system is designed to keep expenses growing faster than income, and I'm caught in the middle. But I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. Someday, I want to tell this story without the edge of fear and exhaustion. For now, it's a daily grind, a test of resilience and faith. And though it's hard, I'm trying to hold on to the idea that one day, I'll look back on this time and see it as the moment I kept going despite everything, and that, maybe, is enough. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.